mid-card championships have always played a vital role in professional wrestling. Titles like WWE's Intercontinental Championship, the NWA's United States title, and TNA's X Division Championship provide different work rates than a world title, allow storyline motivation for more folks on the roster, and is often a sink or swim moment for wrestlers either ready to move up to the main event scene or fall further down the card to make space for those on the rise. Today, no mid-card title in wrestling fits this to a T more than AEW's TNT title, a championship that has seen its holders rise to superstardom or fall completely into oblivion after failing to live up to a champion's expectations. Welcome to this episode of Mark My Words, and this is the rise, the fall, and the redemption of the TNT title. In early 2020, All Elite Wrestling was on a meteoric rise to prominence like no wrestling company had seen in years. The 2-decade-long monopoly WWE held over mainstream wrestling had finally been penetrated by a youthful and energetic movement looking to reestablish what wrestling could be on a national stage. But one thing they were missing was a mid-card title, something for singles stars not yet established as world championship contenders to chase after. It didn't seem like something AEW was interested in doing, but after Cody Rhodes challenged Chris Jericho for the world title in a losing effort that would forbid him from ever trying to capture that title again, fans' hopes for more original gold was finally made reality when they announced the inaugural TNT title tournament. The tournament was announced featuring 8 different competitors: Cody Rhodes, Shawn Spears, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Dustin Rhodes, Kip Sabian, Lance Archer, and Colt Cabana. On a side note, some of these names competing for the TNT title might seem a bit out of place today, but you have to remember how small and scrappy of a startup AEW was. And I do think that creating this title is what convinced some talent to sign with the company later. At Double or Nothing 2020, emanating from the mecca of All Elite Wrestling, Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, Cody Rhodes defeated Lance Archer in the TNT Championship Tournament final to become the very first champion. Boxing legend Iron Mike Tyson even presented Cody with the belt. An interesting thing to note, due to supply chain issues during this time in the COVID era, the final design for the TNT title had not yet been physically completed.
This isn't even the final belt, the actual silver-plated title, which has the shine finish and the extra details. Due to the COVID and the pandemic, didn't have it here, and we will have it maybe even as soon as this week's Dynamite.
Cody began carrying around a less elaborate silver and red title as a placeholder, until he would be the one to debut that final design later. Or would he? Looking to establish himself as a fighting champion, Cody began an open challenge for the TNT title, where even unsigned wrestlers from across the industry could challenge him, leading to the TV debuts of people like Ricky Starks, now NXT's Ricky Saints, and today's fan favorite, Eddie Kingston.
You talk about grinding! No one's gonna outgrind you, and I'll knock your jaw right off your face, partner.
Cody's defenses generally remained hard-fought, back-and-forth bouts where he'd ultimately come out on top. But as his level of competition became more serious, he crossed paths with an absolute animal of a performer, was going out with something to prove after parting ways with WWE. The Exalted One, Mr. Brody Lee.
Let's think about those ribs, how they've taken a beating the last couple of weeks.
On the outside, here comes Brody! He's got a half and half.
Oh my God.
Motivational words, but the power.
Is it too little, too late? His hands hanging down the side. He's still upside down.
He did it!
Are you kidding me?
Whoa!
Are you kidding me?
Only 5 months after his AEW debut, Brody Lee completely destroyed Cody Rhodes in just 3 minutes and 10 seconds to win the TNT title. It was a completely one-sided mauling by the Exalted One, and after the match, he and the Dark Order smashed the previous placeholder title over Cody's broken body, holding the new Red and Gold Championship high in victory. I have a lot of feelings about this match. In some ways, it proved the concept of AEW to me. I'd been a fan of Luke Harper in WWE for years, and always felt that he had been either misused or underutilized. Winning this title as his new character vindicated the idea that an underused star could come over from WWE, re-establish themselves in All Elite Wrestling, and thrive on a national stage. Brody had a fun and dominant run as champion, with great wins over Dustin Rhodes and Orange Cassidy, but it would ultimately be cut short in AEW's first dog collar match, which ended with Cody Rhodes rocking newly dyed all-black hair, pinning Mr. Brody Lee to win the championship back. Cody's second run kept the open challenge format, but at Full Gear, AEW original Darby Allin had his first major breakthrough victory, defeating Cody Rhodes to become TNT champion. Darby became a prime example of a sink-or-swim young champion. Through hard-fought, scrappy victories against guys like Brian Cage and Scorpio Sky, Darby established the perfect tone for his character, who has remained a beloved mainstay figure of AEW today. And I would also argue that this was the beginning of Darby establishing himself as the greatest TV wrestler of all time, especially when it comes to a David versus Goliath style format. Speaking of which, Miro ended Darby Allin's 186th day as TNT champion with a dominant victory on Dynamite from Daly's Place, becoming known as God's favorite champion. Miro's TNT title run would go on to be what many fans consider one of AEW's best title reigns. A good reign should have credible challengers, and Miro did have that in great pay-per-view matches against the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston. But the majority of his TV victories were against guys like Lee Johnson, Brian Pillman Jr., and even though I love him, Evil Uno. Now, I'm not trying to convince you that Miro's TNT title reign was anything less than good, but if you go back and watch it now, it might not be as great as you remember. Dedicating the match to the memory of former TNT champion Mr. Brody Lee, Sammy Guevara won his first AEW title when pinning Miro on Dynamite after landing a 630 senton right onto Miro's Frankenbeans, putting a young AEW original in another sink-or-swim position, much like Darby Allin before him. Sammy's reign was about what you'd expect of him, filled with fast-paced, high-quality matches against challengers like Jay Lethal and Tony Nese. But his ride would ultimately end on Rampage Holiday Bash from the Greensboro Coliseum when he was beat by the first-ever three-time TNT champion, Cody Rhodes. This reign was odd, as Cody only got one defense in before he was pulled for COVID protocols. Sammy won the interim TNT title after wrestling Dustin. This was AEW's first interim title, but it wasn't long before a true champion was crowned in a 5-star ladder match at Dynamite Beach Break. This would also be Cody's final match in AEW, as he abandoned the revolution he claimed to have started in favor of selling out. But at least he made Sammy look like a bona fide star in this match. With his Cody rivalry behind him, Sammy's second reign kicked into full gear, with some incredible defenses, including one of Rampage's greatest matches, retaining in a triple threat against Andrade El Idolo and Darby Allin.
Darby Allin! Go! 1, 2! Oh my God!
At this point, the now established TNT title was on a generational run for a midcard championship, and it seemed like there was nothing that could slow this belt's momentum. On Dynamite out of Fort Myers, Florida, Scorpio Sky became the first wrestler to have held the AEW World Tag Team Championship and the TNT Championship, beating Sammy with some help from his friends at American Top Team. And this is where they start to hot potato the TNT title. Sammy wins the title back after only weeks to become the second 3-time champion, and Scorpio wins it back shortly after that in a ladder match. Sammy and Ty Mello destroy the old belt, leading to the debut of Scorpio's Lakers belt. This is a weird little run because fans expected a lot out of Scorpio's first AEW singles title, considering what a fantastic and decorated tag team competitor he was. But with rumors of him being injured circling while another mid-card act, Wardlow, seemed to be on a meteoric rise, Scorpio's reign seemed to completely kill the momentum the TNT title had built since its beginning. After winning the Face of the Revolution ladder match and earning himself a TNT title shot, Wardlow rode his red-hot momentum into a street fight with Scorpio Sky on Dynamite in Rochester, where he beat Sky to win his first AEW singles title. Unfortunately, Wardlow's reign never really kicks into the next gear, sometimes going months without legitimate challengers and working mostly squash matches, before forming the team War Joe with then ROH television champion Samoa Joe. With the TNT title struggling to live up to the prestige in which it so rightfully deserved, AEW had to rely on legitimate professional wrestling royalty to drag it out from the depths which it had fallen. Luckily, they found that royalty in the king of television. Before we get too deep into this, let me just say that I believe Samoa Joe is the most complete package for a professional wrestler who has ever lived. And I am not going to sound objective when I talk about him. During a three-way Haas fight for the TNT title at Full Gear in New Jersey, Samoa Joe turned on Wardlow by knocking him out with a belt shot and choking out their other opponent, Powerhouse Hobbs, becoming both the TNT and ROH television champion, and fully engaging his new persona, the King of Television. Wardlow would chase after Joe for revenge in the following weeks, but Joe was a step ahead, and even cut off Wardlow's signature ponytail after choking him out. Now on a total warpath, a legitimate champion like Joe required a legitimate challenger, which he immediately found in the former TNT champion, Darby Allin. Darby and Joe went on to hot potato the title in a similar way to what happened with Sammy and Scorpio, but instead of killing the title's momentum, these two went to absolute war in what would become what many call the best trilogy of matches AEW has ever done. But Joe ultimately came out on top in their rivalry, beating Darby in an insane no-holds-barred match on Dynamite from the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio. After the match, a short-haired Wardlow came back for vengeance, and revealed during a sit-down interview with Jim Ross that the ponytail Joe had cut from his head was a tribute to his late father, who'd lost his hair battling cancer. Wardlow then challenged Joe for the TNT title at Revolution in San Francisco, and successfully choked him out to win his title back. But on that same show, another rising star had a career moment when Powerhouse Hobbs won the Face of the Revolution ladder match for a TNT title shot whenever he wanted. In a strange turn of events, Wardlow doesn't really even have his hands on the TNT title leading up to Dynamite that week, after his car is broken into and the belt is stolen the day before the show.
Well, thanks to the person who broke into my rental car and took absolutely everything from me. My TNT title, my gear, my boots, my whole life were in those bags. I don't know if this means I'm going to have to beat the shit out of Hobbs in these clothes I'm wearing right now. Whoever did do this, better thank God I didn't catch you in the act, because your jaw would be as shattered as this glass is.
It's wild how that's not even the first time an AEW title has been stolen from a vehicle. On the next episode of Dynamite, Hobbs cashed in for his TNT title opportunity and won his first AEW championship, beating Wardlow in a Falls Count Anywhere match, with the help of his then QTV ally, QT, or as I call him, Quality Television, Marshall. Now, just about every AEW fan I know was completely stoked to see Hobbs win his first singles championship. Many of us have been watching him since he first debuted on AEW Dark in a 4-second squash against Orange Cassidy, and I don't think we've seen anyone in AEW grow as much as a performer as we have with Powerhouse Hobbs. Despite the enthusiasm, Hobbs had a mostly mediocre run, which was highlighted by him beating both Lucha Brothers in singles action defending the title. But it wasn't long before Wardlow returned for revenge, beating Hobbs clean in Pittsburgh and becoming a 3-time TNT champion. At this point, the title was starting to get into a lull a little bit, nowhere near the lows of Scorpio and Sammy. But with all the hot potatoing going on, this potato just needed to be set down on someone's plate. That plate just happened to belong to a patriarch. Christian Cage was on the run of his career with his patriarch character, often mocking the real-life death of other wrestlers' dads and offering to become their father figures when he sets his sights on Wardlow's TNT title. Wardlow would successfully defend the title against Christian in a solid ladder match at Double or Nothing, but the numbers in Cage's patriarchy stable were just too much, and thanks to some outside interference, Wardlow lost the TNT title to AEW original Luchasaurus on the premiere episode of AEW Collision. Luchasaurus, or as he's been renamed by Christian, Killswitch, would never actually put his hands on the TNT title physically during his entire reign, as Christian carried the belt and claimed to be the rightful champion. All of this happened while Lucha defended the title in some questionable Collision matches. Funny enough, Warner Bros. Discovery never even got a promotional render to use of Luchasaurus with the TNT title, because he never even held the title physically backstage to take a portrait with it. As perhaps the most consistent name in the TNT title's history, Darby Allin finds himself in the hunt to become a 3-time TNT champion, starting with an unsuccessful challenge one-on-one with Luchasaurus, but ending up in a three-way match against Luchasaurus and Christian Cage on Collision. But of course, what many expected to be a handicap match ends up being exactly that, except Christian sneaks in the pinfall victory and becomes the true TNT champion. To make matters sweeter, he receives the belt directly from Luchasaurus, making it the only time the dinosaur puts his hands on that title. At this point, Christian Cage set out with one goal: to make the TNT title as prestigious as the World Championship and worthy of main eventing a pay-per-view. He pretty much does so, taking up tons of showtime with the belt and even defending it in the main event of the very first Wrestle Dream pay-per-view against Darby Allin, which would even lead to the rare defection of a WWE lifer to AEW when the rated R superstar Adam Copeland did the unthinkable and joined All Elite Wrestling. Christian's reign would continue with a few great defenses, including a banger against the American Dragon Bryan Danielson, and would face a quick hiccup on Long Island at World's End when he lost the title to Adam Copeland in an all-out war that yours truly happened to be right next to the action. However, earlier in the night, Killswitch had won a battle royal for a shot at the TNT title whenever he wanted. After Copeland beats Christian for his first AEW Singles Championship, Killswitch takes out Copeland and gives his title opportunity to his father. Christian takes back the championship, making Copeland's 3-minute reign the shortest official title reign in AEW history. Christian continued to keep the bar high for his second official reign, including hard-fought defenses over Dustin Rhodes and Daniel Garcia, but would ultimately succumb to Adam Copeland and Spike during an I Quit match in their hometown of Toronto. This match features a random hockey fight between the two, and I highly recommend seeking this one out. Now, I only have one requirement for what I would call fed lifers when they come over to AEW, and that is I want to see what kind of art they make when the giant corporate machine isn't dictating the direction of their art. Which brings us to the Cope Open. Cope brought the TNT title back to its open challenge roots with a gimmick he'd been running called the Cope Open, which invited anyone to have a match against him, leading to tons of fresh and exciting challengers, including one of Matt Cardona's best matches in his post-WWE run, Penta's last high-profile AEW match, a hard-hitting Canadian affair against Kyle O'Reilly, and defenses against each member of the House of Black. Cope's reign was unfortunately cut short by the best way that a reign can be cut short. The man was just bawling too hard. After jumping off the top of a barbed wire steel cage in his Double or Nothing match against notorious grind runner and phoner inner Malachi Black, Cope broke his leg and had to vacate the TNT title, which would go on to be decided in a 6-man ladder match at Forbidden Door 2024. While the match was loaded with credible contenders like Mark Briscoe and Konosuke Takeshita, it was one of AEW's original 4 pillars, the scapegoat Jack Perry, who would walk away from the UBS arena with the title. Now, my personal theory is that Perry would have been the one to dethrone Copeland. There had been some backstage interactions between the Patriarch and the Elite, which makes me think that they were maybe going towards Copeland and Christian versus the Young Bucks at All In. But with Adam Copeland injured, it still seemed like the right time to give the scapegoat Jack Perry his first real singles title run in AEW. While Perry handmade his own incredible version of the TNT title, and in my opinion did great things with his character during this time, his reign never really kicks into next gear, as he almost never faces opponents who feel like they're ready to become TNT champion. Perry was one of the best baby faces in the game as Jungle Boy, but something about his heel style made him have a forgettable coffin match against Darby Allin at All In 2024. Maybe I just wanted to see him take down a bigger animal than himself, but for whatever reason, this reign felt like it was walking when it should have been running. Eventually, Perry finds himself at odds with a young star who, if Perry is called a pillar, should really be considered the foundation of the second floor, Daniel Garcia. Newly signed to AEW and ready to be this generation's Dean Malenko, Garcia tapped out Perry at Full Gear in Newark to become the new TNT champion, continuing the youthful direction of this storied title. Today, people have differing opinions on Garcia's reign. The in-ring performances have been incredible, with awesome appearances in the Continental Classic and great title defenses against Mark Briscoe, Shibata, and Adam Cole. Though it had a bit of an unfocused start, he's finding a solid direction with strong challengers and great matches worthy of that title's legacy. Personally, I'm enjoying his reign, and whenever his time is up, there are many other incredible wrestlers on the roster who can and will be ready to live up to the title of TNT Champion. And there you have it, the highs, the lows, the rise, the fall, and the redemption of the TNT title. They say the man makes the title doesn't make the man. And I don't think any championship in wrestling exemplifies that quite like the TNT Championship. This has been Mark My Words, and I hope you had a great time.